Now that Dad is gone, you're no one here, my son Ethan said, right over the pot roast like it was just another request to pass the salt. For a second, I honestly thought I'd misheard him, because grief can make your ears ring, but the room went so quiet I could hear the wall clock tick and the soft hum of the refrigerator. I sat in my wheelchair at the end of the dining table, my napkin folded on my lap the way Richard liked, my hands thin and spotted with age, fingers curled around the armrest so I wouldn't shake too much. The chandelier light was warm, but nothing in that house felt warm anymore. Not since the funeral, not since the last casserole dish was returned to the neighbor, not since people stopped saying, "I'm so sorry," and started acting like my sorrow had an expiration date. Ethan didn't look at me when he said it. His eyes stayed on his plate, cutting meat he barely touched, jaw tight like he was repeating something he'd practiced. Across from him, my daughter-in-law Keisha watched me with that guarded stare of hers, chin lifted, curls framing her face like armor, one hand resting near her phone as if she might need it at any moment. She didn't say a word, but her silence felt like agreement, like a stamp pressed onto Ethan's sentence, approved. Around us, the table was set the way it always had been, 12-inch plates, heavy silverware Richard insisted we keep polished, 2 glasses per person even though no one had poured wine. The gravy boat sat between us like a little porcelain piece offering nobody intended to accept. I could still picture Richard in his chair, laughing softly, telling Ethan to slow down and chew, teasing me for fussing over the rolls, and now his chair was empty, pushed in neatly, as if that could erase the gap he left behind. Ethan cleared his throat, the sound sharp. "Mom, I'm serious," he added, like the first cut hadn't gone deep enough. "Things are changing." Keisha finally spoke, voice smooth, careful, the way people talk to someone they've already decided is fragile. "We just want what's best, Maggie. You've been through a lot." She said my name like it was a label on a file folder. I felt heat rise in my cheeks, not from anger. Not yet, but from the sting of being spoken about as if I wasn't still sitting right there, 5 feet away, breathing the same air. My throat tightened. I could have reminded Ethan who paid for his first car, who sat in folding chairs at every school play, who held his feverish forehead at 3 in the morning when Richard was working late. I could have listed every holiday I hosted, every birthday cake I baked, every quiet sacrifice no one applauds. But I didn't. I looked down at the rim of my water glass and watched a tiny bead of condensation slide slowly, like time itself refusing to hurry for anyone. Then I did the only thing that still belonged to me in that moment. I reached for my wheels. The rubber was cool under my palms. I pushed back from the table, the chair legs scraping just slightly, and I rolled away without a word. Behind me, I heard Ethan exhale, like he'd been holding his breath for permission to continue living without me. I passed the kitchen doorway where Richard used to stand and taste the sauce, eyes bright, and I kept going, down the hallway lined with family photos that suddenly looked like props from someone else's life. In my bedroom, the air smelled faintly of lavender lotion and old paper. Richard's robe still hung on the back of the door, untouched since the day we brought his suit home from the dry cleaner for the last time. I closed the door softly, because I wasn't raised to slam doors, and because slamming would have meant they'd gotten what they wanted, a spectacle. I sat in the dark, listening. The muffled clink of silverware continued for a minute. Then Ethan's voice again, lower now, the voice he uses when he's trying to sound like the adult in the room. "We can't keep doing this," he said. Keisha replied, too quiet to catch every word, but I heard enough. "Papers, planning, sooner rather than later." My heart didn't race. It settled. That was the strange part. Somewhere in the weeks since Richard died, a switch had flipped inside me. I was tired of being managed. I was tired of being treated like a burden that could be moved from one corner to another. I turned my head toward the dresser where our wedding photo sat in a simple frame, Richard smiling, my hand in his. I reached out and my fingers brushed the back edge, and there it was, an envelope I hadn't noticed before, tucked behind the frame like a secret he'd been waiting to hand me when I was ready. My name was written on it in Richard's steady handwriting. I didn't open it yet. Not right away. I just held it and let the weight of it sink into my palm. In the next room, their voices continued, confident, certain, and in my chest, something steady and quiet took shape. Tomorrow morning, I was going to the bank. That envelope stayed in my hand long after the house went quiet, like Richard had reached through time and placed his palm over mine. I did not open it right away. I sat there in the dark, listening to my own breathing, listening to the faint creak of floorboards as Ethan and Keisha moved around in the kitchen, their voices low and confident, the kind of confidence people get when they think the decision has already been made. Since the funeral, the house had turned into a place of schedules and whispered plans. My grief was treated like an inconvenience, something that needed to be managed, filed, and moved out of the way. Keisha started controlling little things first. She would remind me of my pills with a smile that did not reach her eyes, then stand too close while I swallowed, as if I might hide them. She rearranged my kitchen drawers because it was more efficient, then acted surprised when I could not find my own measuring spoons. She replaced the soft lamp by the couch with a brighter bulb that made everything look harsh, then told me it was better for my vision. Ethan stopped asking what I wanted. He started telling me what was happening. The mail began to disappear before I saw it, the same way my opinions did. One afternoon, I rolled into the living room and found a stack of papers on the coffee table, forms with my name printed at the top, and Ethan said they were just for planning, just for the future, like the future was something I did not have the right to enter unless he unlocked the door. When I asked what they were, he said it was complicated. When I asked why it had to be done now, Keisha said it was for my own good. Those words followed me everywhere, for my own good, like a leash disguised as kindness. That night after dinner, I tucked the envelope under my nightgown for a moment, feeling the corner of it against my skin, then I slid it into the side pocket of my old purse, the one Richard bought me in Charleston years ago, because he liked the way I smiled when I carried something pretty. I wheeled to the closet and pulled out my black cardigan, then paused at the sight of Richard's robe still hanging there, untouched, as if it was waiting for him to step back into it. I closed the closet door gently and whispered his name once, not because I expected an answer, but because saying it out loud reminded me I was not imagining how life used to feel. I did not sleep much. I dozed in thin slices, waking to the sound of the heater clicking on, waking to the memory of Ethan's voice at the table, waking to the strange steadiness inside me that felt like a decision hardening into shape. Before sunrise, I heard Keisha in the hallway, soft footsteps, a pause at my door, then the quiet retreat. She had been checking on me more often lately, not the way a family checks on someone they love, but the way someone checks on something they do not trust. When the morning light finally turned the edges of my curtains pale gray, I washed my face with cold water, brushed my thin white hair, and put on a simple blouse and slacks. I moved slowly, because my body insisted on its own pace, but inside I felt clear. In the kitchen, the air smelled like coffee. Keisha stood at the counter scrolling on her phone. Ethan sat with his mug, eyes already tired. They both looked up when my wheelchair rolled in, like they had not expected me to appear with purpose. Keisha gave me a smile that was too quick. Ethan said, "Where are you going?" I poured myself a small cup of coffee, the kind Richard used to bring me in bed, and I took one careful sip. "I have an appointment," I said. Ethan frowned. "With who?" he asked. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for a second I saw the boy he used to be, the boy who would run into the house with scraped knees and trust me to make it better. Then Keisha's hand touched his shoulder, light as a reminder, and his face hardened again. I set my cup down. "I will be back before lunch," I said. Keisha tilted her head. "Do you need me to come with you?" she asked, and the question sounded polite, but it felt like a lock clicking into place. I shook my head. "No, thank you," I said. Ethan stood up. "I can drive you," he offered, as if he was doing me a favor, as if I had not driven him everywhere for years. "I already arranged transportation," I said, and I watched the surprise flicker across Keisha's face. Outside, the air was crisp, maybe 45 degrees Fahrenheit, and the sky looked clean and indifferent. An accessible van pulled up at the curb. I rolled down the ramp, my purse tucked against my side, the envelope inside like a heartbeat. As the driver secured my chair, I looked back at the house and thought of Richard's empty seat, the polished silverware, the words Ethan threw at me like I had no name. Then the van door closed, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I was moving towards something that belonged to me. The van smelled faintly of clean vinyl and peppermint gum, and the heater blew warm air across my knees as we pulled away from the curb. The driver kept the radio low, some morning talk show I did not follow, and the tires made that steady whisper on the asphalt that always used to calm me when Richard drove. We passed the corner where he used to buy the Sunday paper, then the small park where Ethan learned to ride his bike, and for a moment my chest tightened like it always did when memory tried to argue with reality. I kept my purse pressed against my side, fingers hooked around the strap, feeling the outline of the envelope through the fabric like a secret seam. The sky was bright and pale, the kind of late fall morning that looks gentle but bites your cheeks when you step outside, and I watched houses slide past, each porch and mailbox reminding me that a life can look perfectly normal from the street while everything inside is cracking. The ride downtown was not long, maybe 6 miles, but it felt like a different country compared to my kitchen table. At home, I had become a problem to solve. Out here, I was simply a woman with an appointment. The driver turned into a parking lot with a blue wheelchair sign painted fresh and bold, and when the bank came into view, I felt my stomach dip, not from fear of the building, but from what it represented. Proof. Proof that Richard had been thinking when I was not looking. Proof that I was not imagining the shift in Ethan and Keisha, the way my mail vanished, the way Keisha asked too many questions with that pleasant tone, the way Ethan started saying we instead of you when he talked about my life. The driver lowered the ramp, the metal humming softly, and the cold air hit my face like a slap of honesty. I rolled forward, steady, careful, my wheels crunching over a thin line of gravel, then onto smooth concrete. The bank doors opened automatically, and warm air wrapped around me along with the smell of polished floors and faint coffee from a little station near the lobby. It was quiet in the way banks are quiet, like everyone has agreed to respect the gravity of money. A young man in a suit glanced at me, then looked away, and I did not mind. I was not here for attention. I was here for answers. The teller line was short. I waited behind a woman holding a checkbook, then rolled forward when it was my turn. The teller was a woman about my granddaughter's age, neat hair pulled back, name tag that said Lila. She smiled with the practiced kindness of someone who has seen every kind of day. "Good morning," she said. "How can I help you?" My mouth went dry. I reached into my purse and took out my driver's license, the one that still listed me at the same address I had shared with Richard for decades. I slid it across the counter. "My name is Margaret Whitmore," I said, making my voice even. "I need to speak with someone about accounts connected to my husband, Richard Whitmore." Lila's smile softened in a way that felt real. "I am sorry for your loss," she said, and for one small second I almost forgot why I had come, because those words had been said to me 100 times, but rarely with eyes that meant them. "Do you have any documentation with you today?" I hesitated, then pulled the envelope out slowly, like I was removing something fragile from a drawer. My name was written there in Richard's handwriting, dark ink, clean lines. I held it for a beat, letting myself feel the weight of it, then I tucked it back against my palm. "I do," I said, "but I have not opened it yet." Lila blinked, surprised. "If you would like, you can open it here," she offered gently. "Or we can bring you to a private desk." I nodded, grateful for the simple respect of being given a choice. She stepped away and spoke to someone behind the counter, and a few moments later a manager came around, a woman in her 50s with silver hair and a calm face. Her name tag read Diane Keller. She greeted me like I mattered. "Mrs. Whitmore, I am Diane," she said. "Let us sit where you are comfortable." She guided me to a small office with a glass wall and a door that clicked shut with a soft final sound. There was a low desk, 2 chairs, and space for my wheelchair without me having to twist or squeeze. Diane sat across from me, hands folded, waiting without rushing. I placed the envelope on the desk. My fingers trembled just a little as I slid a nail under the seal. I was 89 years old, and I had opened thousands of letters in my life, birthday cards, bills, thank you notes, love notes from Richard when he traveled for work, and yet this felt like the first letter that might change my future. The paper inside was thick. There was a letter, and beneath it a clean set of documents with the bank's logo. Richard's handwriting filled the first page. My eyes caught the opening line, and my throat tightened as if he were speaking into the room. "Maggie, if you are reading this, it means I cannot sit beside you anymore, but I can still stand for you." Diane watched my face as I read, and I saw her expression shift, the way a professional mask slips when something becomes serious. I looked up at her, the letter still in my hand. "He told you to contact me," Diane said quietly, and it was not a question. "Yes," I whispered. Diane exhaled slowly, then leaned forward. "Mrs. Whitmore," she said, voice careful, There are protections in place. And before anyone else can change a single thing, we will be speaking with you. For a moment I could not speak, because the word protections sounded like something you put over a new couch, not something you needed over a life. My fingers tightened around Richard's letter, the paper warm from my hands. Diane did not rush me. She waited, eyes steady, as if she understood what it feels like to realize the ground under you has been quietly reinforced while everyone else was trying to pull it away. What kind of protections? I finally asked, and my voice came out thin, but it did not break. Diane turned a folder toward me and slid it across the desk at a careful pace, as if she was handing me something that should be treated with respect. Your husband established a trust arrangement and beneficiary instructions, she said. Some accounts are in your name. Some are connected to the trust, and some are structured so that no changes can be made without your consent. I stared at her, then down at the printed pages. The words were formal, thick with legal language, but the message underneath was plain. Richard had not left me alone in the dark. Diane pointed gently to lines on the paper while she explained in clear terms, not talking down to me, not pretending I could not follow. This document names you as the primary decision-maker, she said. It also requires in-person verification for any major change. That means no one can call in pretending to be you. No one can walk in with a story and get access. The bank has notes on the account to contact you directly. My throat tightened again, but this time it was something like relief. I thought of Ethan at the dinner table, how easily he said I was no one, and I imagined him standing here trying to sound confident, trying to get what he wanted, and being stopped by a simple rule that said, "Ask Maggie." I could almost see Keisha's smile flattening when she realized charm would not work on ink and policy. Diane continued, there is also a safe deposit box attached to this profile. It is in your name. Only you have access unless you add someone. I kept my face still, but inside I felt a flicker of anger at myself for not knowing. Not because Richard hid things, but because I had trusted the idea that family would behave like family. Diane's eyes softened. Your husband was very specific, she said. He requested that we speak with you privately if anything felt pressured or confusing. He wanted you to have control. Control. That word landed like a key in my palm. I looked down at Richard's letter again. Maggie, if you are reading this, it means I cannot sit beside you anymore, but I can still stand for you. I read the line twice, and each time it felt like his voice in my ear, calm and firm, the way he used to sound when Ethan was a teenager and tried to argue his way out of consequences. Diane asked, "Are you comfortable opening the rest with me?" I nodded. My hands shook a little as I lifted the second page. Richard had written in the same steady script he used on grocery lists, the same script I used to tease him about, because it never slanted, never rushed. He wrote that he loved our son, but he had seen changes. He wrote that grief can make people reach for shortcuts, and that sometimes those shortcuts lead straight through someone else. He wrote that I should not sign anything at home without independent advice. He wrote that if anyone made me feel small, I should remember I had carried a family for decades, and I did not have to earn the right to be respected in my own home. I swallowed hard. Diane watched me read, then said, "Mrs. Whitmore, I want to be direct. If anyone is asking you to sign documents or hand over access, you can stop that immediately. We can place additional alerts and require 2 forms of identification, in person, for anything beyond routine transactions." I lifted my eyes. "Can you do that today?" I asked. Diane nodded. "Yes," she said. "We can put safeguards on your profile today. We can also print copies for you to keep somewhere safe." Somewhere safe. The words made me think of my bedroom door, the way Keisha paused. Outside it before sunrise, the way she asked to come with me. I felt my spine straighten against the wheelchair back. "I do not want anyone else added," I said quietly. "Not right now." Diane's expression did not change, but I could tell she understood the weight of that sentence. "All right," she said. "And Mrs. Whitmore, if you would like, we can coordinate with an attorney who specializes in elder law. Not because you cannot handle this, but because you deserve someone in your corner." I took a slow breath. I pictured Ethan's face when I said I had arranged transportation. I pictured Keisha's quick smile, the one that felt like a lock. "Yes," I said. "I would like that." Diane slid a card across the desk with a name and number written neatly on the back. I tucked it into my purse beside Richard's letter. Then Diane asked one more question, soft but serious. "Are you safe at home?" I held her gaze. My answer was honest, but measured. I am not in danger, I said, but I am being pushed. Diane nodded once, like she had heard that before. Then we will help you make sure no one can move you without your permission, she said. And for the first time since the funeral, I felt something steadier than grief settle into my chest. I was still here, and I still had a name. The van ride home felt different than the ride there, like the air itself had shifted. I kept Richard's letter tucked inside my purse, along with Diane's card, and I held my shoulders a little higher even while my body stayed small and thin in my chair. Outside the window, the town looked ordinary. Gas stations and strip malls and a diner with a neon sign that promised comfort food. And it struck me how easy it is for a woman to be quietly erased while the world keeps selling pancakes and coffee like nothing is wrong. When we pulled up to my house, the one I had lived in for more than 50 years, the front porch looked the same, but the feeling inside me was not the same. The driver lowered the ramp and wished me a good day. I thanked him, then rolled up the walkway slowly, the wheels clicking over the cracks I could have traced blindfolded. The front door opened before I reached it. Keisha stood there like she had been waiting behind the curtain. Her smile was polite, but her eyes scanned my purse first, not my face. "You were gone longer than you said," she remarked, as if time belonged to her now. Ethan appeared behind her, hands in his pockets, pretending to be casual. "Where did you go, Mom?" he asked. His voice was careful, but I heard the edge underneath it, the same edge he used at the table when he said I was no one. I rolled inside, letting the doorway frame them like a photograph of two people who believed they were in charge. "I took care of something personal," I said. Keisha's eyebrows lifted. "Personal like what?" She pressed, stepping aside so I could pass, but not fully moving away, like a gate that opens only halfway. I stopped in the hallway and looked up at her. "Personal like grown up," I said softly. Ethan shifted his weight. "Mom, we just need to know what is going on," he said. And it was almost funny. The way the boy who once begged me for permission to stay out late was now acting like he needed permission from me to let me exist. I did not argue. I did not raise my voice. I just rolled past them toward my bedroom, because I had learned something that morning. You do not win a power struggle by showing your cards. Behind me, Keisha followed. "Do you want me to help you settle in?" she asked, and the sweetness in her tone felt practiced. I heard Ethan's footsteps too, slower, hesitant. They were both trying to be present without looking like they were hovering, and I could feel their curiosity like hands reaching toward my purse. In my bedroom, I turned my chair to face them. I set my purse on my lap and kept my hand over the zipper. "I am tired," I said. "I am going to rest." Keisha gave a small laugh that was not warm. "You always say that when you do not want to talk," she replied. "We are family, Maggie. There should not be secrets." I held her gaze. "There should not be disrespect either," I said, and my voice stayed calm even as my heart thumped. Ethan flinched like I had slapped him with a word. "Nobody disrespected you," he muttered. I did not correct him. I did not repeat his sentence from the dinner table. I just let silence do the work. Keisha's eyes flicked to the dresser where our wedding photo sat. I saw her notice the slight gap behind the frame, the place where the envelope had been, and something in her expression tightened. "What did you take from there?" she asked, too quickly, and the question told me more than any confession could. I smiled, small and tired. "I took nothing that belongs to you," I answered. Keisha's jaw set. Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice like he was trying to be reasonable. "Mom, you cannot make big decisions alone," he said. "It is not safe." I looked at him. "It was safe when I raised you," I said. "It was safe when I managed this house while your father worked. It was safe when I sat beside him through every doctor visit and every bill and every difficult year. It is only suddenly unsafe now that your father is not here to stop you from speaking to me like I am a problem." Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it. Keisha placed a hand on his arm, a quick touch that looked supportive but felt controlling, and I saw him soften under it. That was when I understood something painful and clear. Ethan was not leading this. He was being steered. I turned my chair slightly toward my nightstand and picked up my phone with hands that still shook a little. I did not dial yet. I just held it where they could see, and I watched both of them glance at it like it was a weapon. "I will be making calls," I said. "I will be speaking with professionals. If there are documents you want me to sign, you can give them to me, and I will review them with independent advice." Keisha's smile froze. "Independent advice?" she repeated. "We are trying to help you." I nodded once. "Then you will not mind," I said. I reached down and unzipped my purse just enough to slip Diane's card into a side pocket of my dresser drawer, out of sight. Then I zipped it again and kept my hand on it. Keisha's eyes followed every movement. Ethan exhaled, frustrated. "This is getting complicated," he said. I looked at him with the calm I had borrowed from Richard's letter. "It was complicated the moment you decided I was no one," I said, and I watched the words land. Keisha took a step back as if she had been exposed to cold air. Ethan stared at the floor. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. Then Keisha forced her voice back into that careful, polite shape. "We will talk later," she said. "After you rest." They left my room, and the door clicked shut behind them. I sat still, listening to their footsteps fade down the hall, listening to the house settle. Then I opened my drawer, took out Diane's card, and dialed the number she had written for the attorney, because tomorrow was not the only day I could move with purpose. The phone rang twice before a calm voice answered, and I held the receiver close like it was something fragile. "Law Office of Laura Bennett," the woman said. "How may I help you?" I swallowed once. "My name is Margaret Whitmore," I said. "I was referred by Diane Keller at First Harbor Bank. I need legal advice about my husband's estate and some pressure I am feeling at home." There was a pause, the kind that tells you someone is suddenly paying full attention. "Mrs. Whitmore, I am glad you called," Laura said, and her tone was steady, not dramatic, not pitying. "Are you safe right now?" "I am not in danger," I answered, choosing my words carefully. "But I am being pushed to sign things and surrender control." "Do not sign anything," she said immediately. "Not a single page. Not even something they call routine. If you can, keep all documents in your possession. Can you come to my office tomorrow?" I glanced at my bedroom door. Closed, the house quiet except for distant movement. "Yes," I said. "I can arrange transportation." "Good," Laura replied. "Bring your identification, your husband's letter, and anything you have been asked to sign. If they have been hiding mail or financial statements, tell me that too." When I hung up, the silence in my room felt different, like it was no longer empty, like it was filled with a plan. I tucked the phone back onto the nightstand and sat still for a moment, listening to the house. I could hear Keisha's voice downstairs, low and quick, and Ethan's answer, softer, uncertain. I did not need to catch the words to recognize the rhythm of people deciding what to do with someone else. A few minutes later, there was a knock, not gentle, not rude, just firm enough to say, "I am coming in whether you like it or not." The door opened, and Keisha stepped inside first, followed by Ethan. Keisha carried a thin folder like it weighed nothing. Ethan's face was tight, his eyes darting from my purse to the drawer where I had hidden the business card earlier, like he was trying to solve a puzzle he did not want to admit existed. Keisha smiled. "We should clear the air," she said. "We were worried." I nodded once. "Worry does not sound like an insult at the dinner table," I said. Ethan's shoulders stiffened. "Mom, can we not do this?" he muttered, as if my hurt was an inconvenience. Keisha held up the folder. "We just need you to sign a few things," she said, voice bright. "It is standard. It will make everything easier." "Easier for who?" I asked. Keisha's smile held for a beat too long. "For everyone," she said. "For your care, for planning, for the house." She opened the folder and slid out papers, placing them on my bed like she was setting out placemats. I did not reach for them. I did not even look down. I looked at Ethan instead. "Tell me what it is," I said. He glanced at Keisha, and that single glance told me who had coached him. "It is just power of attorney," he said quickly. "So we can help, so we can handle things if you forget something." My pulse stayed steady, but my stomach turned cold. Power of attorney. A phrase that sounds responsible until you realize it can become a door that locks behind you. Keisha leaned closer, speaking softly, as if lowering her voice made it kinder. "Maggie, you are 89. It is not an insult to admit you need support," she said. "You should not be making calls or appointments without telling us." There it was, plain and sharp. Not concern, control. I took a slow breath and kept my voice even. "I will not sign anything without independent legal advice," I said. The word independent landed like a stone in the room. Ethan blinked. Keisha's eyes narrowed so slightly most people would miss it. "Why do you need a lawyer?" Keisha asked, and her tone was still polite, but it had an edge now. "We are your family." I nodded. "That is exactly why I need a lawyer," I said. Ethan's face reddened. "Mom, you are overreacting," he snapped, then tried to soften it. "We just want to help. I looked down at my hands, thin and veined, resting on the armrests, then back up at him. Help does not demand a signature, I said. Help does not rush. Help does not call me no one. Ethan flinched again, like the words had weight. Keisha's smile vanished. So you are not going to sign, she said flatly. Not today, I answered. Not tomorrow. Not ever. Unless my attorney says it protects me. Ethan exhaled hard and looked away. Keisha gathered the papers back into her folder with quick, irritated motions, then forced her voice into sweetness again. Fine, she said. We will wait. But you cannot keep secrets in this house. I met her gaze. This is my house, I said quietly, and the sentence came out before I could stop it, because the truth does that sometimes. For a heartbeat, nobody moved. Then Ethan spoke, and his voice was smaller than I expected. Dad is gone, he said, as if that explained everything. I nodded once. Yes, I said, and that is why I am finally hearing what you really think. They left my room without another word, the door clicking shut behind them. I sat there in the quiet and felt my grief rise like a wave, not for the papers, not even for the insult, but for the boy I raised who had learned to measure his mother's worth by who was still alive to defend her. Then I reached for my phone again and texted the transportation number from earlier, confirming my ride for the next morning, because if they wanted to treat me like I was fading, I was going to show them what it looked like when a woman quietly takes her name back. When I returned home that afternoon, the house felt like it was holding its breath. The van ramp lowered, and as soon as my wheels touched the driveway, I saw Keisha's silhouette shift behind the living room curtains. She opened the front door before I reached it again, too fast, like she had been waiting for a cue. How was your appointment? She asked, voice sweet, eyes sharp. Productive, I said, and I rolled past her without stopping. Ethan appeared in the hallway, trying to look casual, but his hands were fidgeting the way they used to when he was caught doing something he knew was wrong. Mom, he began, then stopped, as if he could not decide what tone to use. I did not give him one to borrow. I went to my bedroom, closed the door, and placed my folder in the bottom drawer beneath a stack of old sweaters. Then I took out a small notebook and wrote the date, the time, and one sentence. Power of attorney papers presented in bedroom. Refused. Attorney retained. I did not do it to be dramatic. I did it because facts are harder to twist than feelings. Downstairs, voices rose and fell like waves. Keisha's voice had that tight, controlled brightness people use when they're trying to keep a lid on panic. Ethan's voice was lower, uncertain. I heard the words lawyer and letter, and my stomach tightened, not with fear, but with confirmation. It had already arrived. Laura had said she would send it today, and she had not wasted a minute. I sat still, hands resting on my armrests, listening to the house settle around me. Then my phone rang. The number on the screen was the bank. I answered on the second ring. This is Margaret Whitmore, I said. Mrs. Whitmore. Diane's voice came through, calm and professional. I wanted to inform you of an attempted inquiry on your accounts. Someone called requesting access information and changes. As noted, we did not discuss anything, and we terminated the call. I just wanted you to know. My throat went dry for a second, not because I was surprised, but because hearing it said out loud made it real in a way my instincts already understood. Thank you, I said. Was it my son? Diane hesitated just enough to tell me she had recognized the voice. It was someone who identified himself as Ethan Whitmore, she replied carefully. And there was another person in the background speaking. We did not proceed. We can place an additional verbal passphrase if you would like. I glanced at my closed door, imagining Keisha downstairs, mouth tight, watching Ethan dial, coaching him like a stage manager. Yes, I said. Please add it. Diane walked me through setting a simple phrase only I would know, something ordinary that would not draw attention if anyone overheard it. When we finished, she said, Mrs. Whitmore, you did the right thing by calling us first and by involving counsel. I thanked her again and hung up. The quiet afterward felt heavy, but it was the quiet of a door that had just been locked from the inside. A knock hit my bedroom door, harder than before. Maggie. Keisha called, not sweet anymore. We need to talk. Now. I waited one full breath before I answered, because I was not going to be trained like a dog by her urgency. Come in, I said. The door opened, and Keisha stepped inside with Ethan behind her. Keisha held a paper in her hand, Laura's letter, the clean lines of it visible even from where I sat. Her cheeks were flushed, but her posture was stiff, as if she was trying to stand on pride to keep from tipping into anger. Ethan looked pale, like someone had yanked a rug out from under him. "Why did you do this?" he blurted, and the question sounded less like outrage and more like fear. Keisha lifted the letter as if it was evidence of my wrongdoing. "You hired a lawyer against us," she said. "Do you understand how that looks?" I looked at her, then at Ethan. "It looks like I am protecting myself," I said. Keisha laughed once, sharp and humorless. "Protecting yourself from what?" "From family," she snapped. Ethan's voice rose, his old boyish frustration showing through. "Mom, this is insane. We were trying to help you. Now the bank will not even talk to me." I let the words sit in the air. Then I asked, softly, "Why were you calling the bank?" Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it. Keisha answered for him. "Because we needed information to manage things," she said. "You forget details. You get confused." I felt something steady settle in my chest. "I am not confused," I said. "I am clear." Keisha's eyes narrowed. "You are being manipulated," she insisted. "That letter, those people, they do not know us." I kept my voice even. "They do not need to know you," I said. "They need to know what is authorized and what is not." Ethan took a step closer, lowering his voice like he was trying to sound reasonable. "Mom, you cannot make us the enemy," he said. "Dad is gone. We have to handle life now." I looked at him, and I did not raise my voice, because I wanted him to hear me without the excuse of emotion. "Your father is gone," I said. "But he was not foolish. He set rules. Those rules protect me. If your intentions are good, rules should not scare you." Keisha's fingers crumpled the edge of the letter, then she flattened it again, forcing control back into her hands. "So what now?" she demanded. "You are just going to shut us out?" I shook my head. "No," I said. "I am going to speak through my attorney about legal matters. In this house, you can still speak to me with respect." Ethan's face tightened. Keisha's eyes flicked to my purse, then to my drawer, then back to me, as if she was calculating where I kept the leverage she could not reach. "Fine," she said, voice clipped. "But do not expect us to keep living like this." She turned to leave, then paused at the doorway. "You are making it hard on your son," she added, like a final push. I did not flinch. "My son made it hard on me first," I said quietly. Keisha walked out. Ethan lingered, eyes searching my face, and for a second I saw confusion there, like he was realizing he could not bully a woman who had stopped begging to be included. He left without another word. When the hallway went quiet again, I opened my notebook and wrote another line. Bank called. Attempted access. Blocked. Then I looked at Richard's letter in my drawer and thought, not with anger, but with strategy. If they were this bold when they thought I was weak, what would they do next now that they knew I was not? The next morning, I made pancakes from a box mix even though I did not feel like eating, because routine can be armor. I measured the milk carefully, half a cup, stirred until the batter turned smooth, and let the griddle heat while the house stayed too quiet. Ethan and Keisha had been avoiding me since the bank call, like my presence reminded them of a door they could not open. I wanted them uncomfortable. I wanted them uncertain. Uncertainty makes people talk. By 10 o'clock, I rolled into the living room and found Keisha on the couch with her laptop open, fingers tapping fast, Ethan pacing near the window with his phone in his hand. The sight of them together like that, planning without me, would have crushed me a month ago. Now it just sharpened my focus. "We should have a family meeting," I said. Both heads snapped toward me. Keisha blinked, then recovered first. "A meeting?" she repeated, like the idea offended her. Ethan frowned. "For what?" he asked. I kept my voice calm. "To talk about what you want from me," I said. "And what I want from you." Keisha's eyes narrowed, but she nodded slowly, as if agreeing made her look reasonable. "Fine," she said. "Tonight. Dinner." I almost laughed at the word dinner, but I did not. "Tonight," I agreed. 6 o'clock. All day, I moved quietly through my house, noticing details I had ignored before. A kitchen drawer that did not close the way it used to. A stack of mail on the counter with my name facing down. The faint smell of Keisha's perfume in the hallway outside my bedroom, as if she had been standing there longer than she needed to. I did not confront. I observed. At 4 o'clock, I called Laura Bennett's office and left a message letting her know I was holding a discussion at home and that I would not sign anything, that I simply needed clarity and would document what was said. Then I wheeled into my bedroom and opened my drawer, taking out Richard's letter and the copies Diane printed for me. I did not bring them downstairs. Not yet. I wanted the truth first, the unfiltered version that comes out when people think they are still steering the conversation. At 6 o'clock, the table was set again. Keisha had lit a candle like she was dressing up a battleground. Ethan sat with his shoulders tight, eyes tired. Keisha sat straight-backed, hands folded, a controlled smile hovering on her face like a mask she could lift or drop, depending on what she needed. I rolled into my usual spot, the end of the table where Richard used to reach for my hand when the meal started. For a moment my chest ached, but I pushed the feeling aside. This was not a night for nostalgia. This was a night for facts. All right, Keisha said, voice pleasant. You wanted a meeting. Talk. I lifted my chin. I will start with a simple question. I said, what do you want me to sign? Ethan's eyes flicked to Keisha. She answered quickly, too quickly. We want you to sign a limited power of attorney, just for convenience, she said. And we need access to the accounts so we can make sure bills get paid. I nodded once as if I was considering. Which accounts? I asked. Keisha's smile tightened. All of them, she said, then corrected herself. The household accounts. The ones connected to the house. I leaned forward slightly. What about the trust? I asked. Keisha's fingers twitched near her water glass. The trust is complicated, she said. That is why we need to manage it. Ethan finally spoke. Mom, it is not about taking anything, he said, but his voice sounded like he was reading a line he did not fully believe. It is about keeping things stable. I looked at him. Stable for who? I asked again. Ethan opened his mouth, then Keisha slid in smoothly. For you, she said. You are older. You forget. You get overwhelmed. It is stressful. I let the words hang. Then I asked, when was the last time I forgot to pay a bill? Keisha blinked. Ethan stared at his plate. Keisha shrugged. It is not about a specific bill, she said. It is about the future. I nodded again. So it is not about what I have done, I said softly. It is about what you assume I will do. Keisha's eyes flashed. Maggie, do not twist this, she warned. We are trying to prevent problems. I set my fork down even though I had not taken a bite. Then answer another question. I said, why did Ethan call the bank yesterday? Ethan's face went pale. Keisha's head snapped toward him, then back to me. That is none of your business, she said sharply, then caught herself and tried to soften. We called because we needed to know what was happening. You are refusing to communicate. I kept my tone even. The bank called me, I said. They told me someone identifying himself as Ethan asked to change information. Keisha's smile vanished completely. Ethan's eyes widened, and for the first time, I saw real fear in his face. Mom, I did not try to change anything, he said quickly. Keisha leaned toward him, whispering something harsh under her breath, then faced me again. They misunderstood, she said. He was just asking questions. I nodded slowly, as if I believed her. Then I asked, if you are only asking questions, why do you need my signature so urgently? Keisha's jaw tightened. Because you are making this difficult, she snapped, and there it was again, the truth slipping out when her patience ran thin. Ethan rubbed his forehead. Mom, please, he said, and his voice cracked just slightly. We are all we have left. That sentence should have melted me. It would have, once. But I heard the hidden meaning now. Comply, or we will make you alone. I took a slow breath and looked at both of them. I am not asking to be fought, I said quietly. I am asking to be respected. Keisha scoffed. Respect is earned, she said. Ethan flinched as if he knew she should not have said it. I held Keisha's gaze and spoke in the calmest voice I had. I earned respect when I built this family, I said. If you cannot give it freely, then you can give it through boundaries. The candle flame flickered between us, small and stubborn. Ethan's hands trembled against his glass. Keisha stared at me like she was seeing, for the first time, that I was not going to fold. And in the silence that followed, I could feel the next move coming. Because people who cannot control you will always try to shame you instead. Keisha's face shifted the way a curtain shifts when a window opens, and suddenly the sweetness was gone. Respect is earned, she repeated, slower this time, like she wanted the sentence to leave a mark. And lately all you do is sit here and make demands. Ethan stared at his plate, jaw working, like he was trying to swallow something that did not taste right. I looked at Keisha and felt a strange calm settle over me, not because her words did not hurt, but because they finally matched the pattern I had been watching for weeks. When someone cannot take your signature, they try to take your dignity. You are calling my need for respect a demand, I said quietly. Keisha lifted her chin. What do you want me to call it? She asked. A privilege? You are living in our space now. Ethan's head snapped up. Keisha, he warned, but his voice was weak, like a man who had been letting someone else speak for him for too long. I kept my eyes on him. Did you hear what she just said? I asked. Our space. Ethan blinked, then looked away, and that small movement told me he had heard it before, maybe even repeated it to himself. Keisha leaned forward, hands flat on the table. You know what, Maggie, she said, voice low and sharp. Everyone tiptoes around you because you are older, but I am not going to pretend. You are making life harder for Ethan. You are creating drama when we should be healing. People will think you are not stable. The word stable landed like a threat wrapped in a ribbon. My stomach tightened, but I did not let my face change. People, I repeated softly. Which people? Keisha's mouth curved into something that was not a smile. Family, friends, doctors, anyone who needs to know, she said. If you keep refusing help, someone will have to step in. Ethan's hand gripped his water glass. Mom, she is just saying we are worried, he said, but his voice sounded like he did not believe it. I took a slow breath and set my fork down with care, because I wanted my body to communicate what my voice did. I was not panicking. I am going to say this once, I said. Concern does not require coercion. Help does not require signatures. And love does not require threats. Keisha scoffed. There you go again with your speeches, she said. You think you can scare us with boundaries. I nodded slightly. I do not want to scare you, I said. I want to be clear. I rolled my wheelchair back from the table, turned, and moved toward the hallway. Ethan pushed his chair back halfway, startled. Mom, where are you going? He asked. To get clarity in writing, I answered. Keisha laughed as if I was being theatrical, but her eyes followed me with a flicker of something else. I went to my bedroom and opened the drawer where I kept my folder. My hands shook a little, not from fear, but from adrenaline, the kind that comes when you finally stop pretending. I took out one sheet of paper, the letter Laura Bennett had sent, the one that did not yell, did not accuse, just set rules like a fence around my life. I rolled back to the dining room and placed it on the table between Ethan and Keisha. What is that? Keisha asked, though her voice already knew. That is my attorney's letter, I said. It states that any legal or financial communication goes through her office. It states that no documents are to be presented to me for signature outside counsel. And it states that any attempt to access accounts or alter estate matters without my consent will be treated as interference. Ethan's eyes widened as he read, and I watched him reach the line about contacting counsel and stop breathing for a second. Keisha's fingertips tapped the page like she was trying to wear a hole through it. You cannot do this, she said. You cannot shut us out. I kept my voice even. I can, I said. And I did. Because you forced my hand when you tried to force my signature. Ethan looked up, voice small. Mom, I just called the bank to ask questions, he said. They called me. I replied. They documented it. They blocked it. And they added safeguards that require my consent in person. Keisha's eyes flashed, and I saw anger. Yes, but I also saw something closer to panic. You are trying to punish us, she hissed. I shook my head. I am trying to protect myself, I corrected. If you have good intentions, protection should not bother you. Ethan's shoulders slumped as if the room had gotten heavier. Dad really planned this. He murmured, more to himself than to me. I looked at him and felt a dull ache, because he finally sounded like the son I raised, the one who used to trust his father's judgment. Your father loved you, I said. And he loved me. He made sure love did not depend on your mood. Keisha pushed the letter back toward me like it burned her fingers. So what now? She snapped. You think a lawyer makes you powerful? I met her gaze and spoke softly, letting each word land. No, I said. Truth makes me powerful. The law just puts it in writing. The candle flame trembled, and the room went quiet again, but this time it was not the quiet of me being erased. It was the quiet of them realizing I had taken the pen out of their hands. After that dinner, the house did not erupt into yelling or slammed doors. It did something worse. It went quiet in a way that made every hallway feel longer. Keisha stopped offering me tea. Ethan stopped meeting my eyes. They moved around me like I was furniture they had not decided whether to keep. In the mornings, I heard Keisha on the phone in the kitchen, her voice low, her words clipped. as if she was trying to rebuild control one call at a time. I did not chase the conversation. I let her speak into the air. I let her show her hands. I kept my notebook close and wrote down dates, times, and what I could prove. Then I started doing something I had not done since Richard was alive. I started making plans that did not include asking permission. 2 days later, I arranged another accessible ride, not to the bank this time, but to a senior living community Laura Bennett recommended, a place 10 miles away with ramps, wide doorways, and a nurse on site if you needed one. Keisha tried to insist on coming. "It is for your safety," she said, standing in the doorway as if her body could block my future. I looked at her and kept my voice mild. "If it is for my safety, then you should be relieved that I am going with professionals," I said. She did not like that. Ethan did not argue, but his silence felt heavy, like a child who knows he has been caught and is waiting to see the consequence. The community had a brick entrance and a small fountain in the courtyard. The air smelled like trimmed hedges and fresh paint. A staff member named Carol greeted me with a warm smile and introduced herself like I was a person, not a problem. She showed me an apartment with a wide bathroom and grab bars that looked sturdy, not humiliating. The living room window faced a line of trees that moved gently in the wind, and for a moment I imagined waking up without hearing Keisha's footsteps pause outside my door. Carol pointed out the dining room, the activity calendar, the library, the small gym with seated exercise classes. She did not sell it like a bargain. She offered it like an option. When she asked if I wanted to schedule a trial week, I surprised myself by saying yes. In the van ride home, I watched the town pass by and realized I was not running away from my house. I was walking toward peace. That afternoon I called Laura and told her my decision. She did not sound triumphant. She sounded relieved. She helped me set up a plan that felt simple but strong. A mailing address that only I controlled, alerts on my accounts, and written instructions that any financial changes required my presence and my explicit consent. I also asked her to arrange a caregiver agency for a few hours a day, not because I could not do anything, but because I wanted support that did not come with strings. When the caregiver arrived for an introductory visit, her name was Renee, and she spoke to me like an adult. She asked what I liked to eat, what time I preferred to rest, and how I wanted my wheelchair positioned at the table. It had been weeks since anyone asked what I wanted in a way that did not hide an agenda. That night, I began packing quietly. I did not take everything. I took what mattered. Richard's letters, our photo albums, my jewelry box, my favorite cardigan, the quilt my mother stitched when I got married. I took the small things that hold a life together when the big things become contested. I put labels on boxes in clear handwriting and kept them in my closet with the door shut. Keisha noticed, of course. She hovered in the hallway and asked, "What are you doing now?" I answered without looking up. "Preparing," I said. "For what?" she pressed. I turned my chair to face her. "For my next chapter," I said. Ethan appeared behind her, his expression strained. "Mom, you are really leaving?" he asked, and his voice sounded like he wanted me to say no, like he wanted the comfort of my staying without the responsibility of respecting me. I held his gaze. "I am not leaving because I hate you," I said. "I am leaving because I love myself enough to stop begging for a seat at my own table." Keisha's mouth tightened. Ethan looked away. The next morning, I wheeled onto the porch with my purse and my folder and watched the sun warm the steps Richard built with his own hands. I did not cry. I did not perform sorrow. I just breathed, and I felt something new settle into me, something I had forgotten I was allowed to have at 89 years old. Choice. My trial week began on a Monday, and by Tuesday morning I realized something I did not expect. The silence here did not feel like punishment. It felt like rest. The apartment was small but bright, the kind of place where every corner had a purpose. The hallway was wide enough for my wheelchair without me scraping my knuckles, and the bathroom had sturdy rails that did not make me feel helpless, only supported. When the sun came through the window, it warmed the quilt my mother stitched, and I laid my hand on it like a promise to myself that I would not spend my last years apologizing for taking up space. Renee visited in the afternoons to help with the things that had become harder, like folding laundry and setting my medication organizer, but she never treated me like a burden. She asked my preferences, waited for my answers, and thanked me when I trusted her. That simple respect, day after day, started healing parts of me I did not know were bruised. On the fourth day, I went to the community dining room for breakfast. The smell of coffee was familiar, and the sound of silverware was gentle, not tense. I ordered oatmeal and fruit, and a woman named Dolores waved me over to her table like she had been expecting me. She did not ask why I was there. She asked where I grew up and what Richard did for work and whether I liked card games. We talked about weather and grandchildren and the way time changes a person. I laughed once, surprised by the sound of it, and it felt like finding a forgotten song in my own throat. That afternoon, Laura called to confirm the final paperwork for my new mailing address and the extra security measures. Everything is active, she said. No one can access or alter anything without your direct consent. I thanked her and hung up, then sat by my window and watched the trees move in the breeze. I thought of Ethan's face when I said I was leaving. The way he looked like a child watching his mother walk out of a room he never noticed she held together. I did not hate him. I hated the moment he chose comfort over character. Grief does strange things to people, but it does not create cruelty out of nothing. It only reveals what someone is willing to do when they think there will be no consequences. That night, as I was turning down the bed, my phone rang. Ethan's name appeared on the screen, and my heart gave a small, reluctant squeeze. I let it ring twice before answering, because I needed to remember I was not on a leash anymore. "Hello," I said. His voice sounded tired, stripped of the bravado he wore at the dinner table. "Mom," he said, and there was a pause, like he did not know what kind of mother would answer after everything. Are you okay?" I looked around my little apartment, at my cardigan folded neatly on a chair, at Richard's photo on the dresser, at the quiet that felt like dignity. "Yes," I said. "I am okay." Ethan exhaled shakily. "Keisha is angry," he admitted. "She says you embarrassed us. She says you made it look like we were trying to take advantage." I kept my voice calm. "If the truth embarrasses someone, it is not the truth that is wrong," I said. Another pause. "Mom," he began again, softer. I did not mean what I said. I was stressed. Everything feels out of control without Dad. I closed my eyes for a moment and pictured Richard's steady handwriting, his careful planning, the way he protected me without making me feel small. "You miss him," I said. "I do too." Ethan's voice cracked. I did not know what to do," he whispered. I opened my eyes. "You could have honored him," I said gently. "You could have spoken to me like I was still your mother." Silence filled the line. Then Ethan said, "I am sorry." The words were simple, but they sounded like they cost him something, and that mattered. I did not rush to comfort him. I did not rush to forgive. I let the apology sit where it belonged, between us, like a bridge that might hold if it was built with more than guilt. "Thank you for saying that," I replied. "If you want a relationship with me, it will be built on respect. Not fear. Not pressure. Respect." Ethan swallowed audibly. "I understand," he said. "Can I visit?" I looked at the window again, at the trees, at the freedom and the quiet. "You can," I said. "But you will not come to manage me. You will come to know me." He breathed out, like he was letting go of a role he had been playing. "Okay," he said. "Okay." After we hung up, I sat for a long time with my hands resting on the blanket. I felt grief, yes, but I also felt something I had not felt in weeks. Peace with boundaries. Richard's absence had opened a crack in my family, and through that crack, greed and control tried to crawl in. But Richard also left me a way to stand. Not with shouting, not with revenge, with clarity, with paper, with calm, with a woman's right to be treated as a person until her last breath. Before bed, I took out Richard's letter one more time and reread the line about standing for me. I touched the page gently and whispered, "I did it, Rich." Then I turned off the lamp, and for the first time since the funeral, I fell asleep without feeling like I had to earn my place in the world.